Which of the following noble ideals is mentioned in the preamble of the Indian Constitution? Option B, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. Who among the following personalities was appointed as the legal advisor of the Constituent Assembly that drafted the document of the Constitution? Option D, B.N. Rao. Which of the following is the fundamental law of any country which set out the framework and the principal function of various organs of the government? Option C, the Constitution. Which of the following is not a political philosophy of the Indian Constitution? Option D, non-committal to building a common national identity. Which of the following word is not mentioned in the Indian Constitution? Option C, federalism. In which year did Motilal Nehru and 8 other Congress leaders draft a constitution for India? Option C, 1928. The members of the Constituent Assembly signed the Constitution of India on 24th January 1950. Option B. In 1946, who among the following was made the interim president of the Indian Constituent Assembly? Option B, Sachidananda Sinha. Who described the preamble of Indian Constitution as the political horoscope of the Indian Constitution? Option B, Kanhaiyalal Maniklal Munshi. When was the first Constituent Assembly election held in India? Option B, 1946. The original Constitution of India was handwritten in English by option B, Prem Bihari Narayan Raijada. The total membership of the Constituent Assembly was 389, of which 93 were representatives of princely states. Option D. What is the minimum age prescribed by the Constitution of India for appointment as governor of a state? Option A, 35 years. Who among the following became a part of the Constituent Assembly from Madras constituency in 1946? Option A, Ammu Swaminathan. Alladi Krishnaswamy Iyer was the chairman of the Credential Committee of the Constituent Assembly of India. G.B. Mavlankar was the chairman of the Committee on the Functions of the Constituent Assembly of India. Option B. The Constituent Assembly was recognized by Section 8 Clause 1 of the Indian Independence Act 1947. When was the 10th session of the Constituent Assembly held? Option A, 6 to 17 October 1949. Who was the chairman of the House Committee of the Constituent Assembly of India? Option A, B. Pattabi Sitaramaya. How many female members were part of the Constituent Assembly that framed the Constitution of India? Option D, 15. With reference to the Constituent Assembly, which of the following statement is correct? Option B, the Constituent Assembly adopted the national anthem in January 1950. Which of the following is the incorrect statement in regard to the meaning of Union of States in the Indian context. The Indian Federation was the result of an agreement by sovereign units to join it. All the democratic countries likely to have a constitution. Option B. Which is not a unitary feature of the Constitution of India. Option A. Bicameral legislature. Which of the following is not a federal feature of the Indian Constitution? Option C. All India services. Who among the following described the Indian Constitution as quasi-federal? Option D. K.C. Ware. The ceremony that marked the end of Republic Day celebration is called the Beating Retreat Ceremony. Option A. The Constitution of India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic with a what system of government? Option B. Parliamentary. Who moved the objective resolution that was later adopted as the preamble of the Constitution of India? Option C. Jawaharlal Nehru. The Constitution of India was adopted by the Constituent Assembly in the year of 1949. Option B. The structural part of the Indian Constitution is, to a large extent, derived from the Act of 1935. Option B. Who among the following personalities was the chief draftsman of the Constituent Assembly that drafted the document of the Constitution? S.N. Mukherjee. Who among the following wrote the calligraphic style, the Hindi version of the original Indian Constitution? Option C. Basant Kishan Vaidya. Which of the following word was not a part of the original preamble of the Indian Constitution? Option C. Secular. The first nominated deputy chairman of the Constituent Assembly was Frank Anthony. Dual citizenship is a feature of federal government. A form of constitution that contains the feature of both the unitary and federal constitution is called quasi-federal. The directive principles of state policy were described as the noble feature of the Constitution of India by B.R. Ambedkar. The father of Indian Constitution was B.R. Ambedkar. Dr. Sachidananda Sinha was elected as interim president of Constituent Assembly on 9 December 1946. The fifth session of the Constituent Assembly was held from 14 to 30 August 1947. The Indian Constitution came into force on 26 January 1950. Terms like sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic, justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity are mentioned in preamble. The system of government in which power is divided between a central authority and various constituent units is called federalism. Dr. Rajendra Prasad was elected as permanent chairman of Constituent Assembly on 11 December 1946. The objective resolution adopted unanimously by the Constituent Assembly on 22 January 1947. The Government of India Act 1919 fixed the tenure of the Council of State at 5 years. The interim government of India was formed from the newly elected Constituent Assembly of India on 2nd September 1946. According to Indian Constitution, the government has three organs: executive, legislative and judiciary. The Constitution of India was handwritten in English and Hindi. The Constitution of India was crafted by a Constituent Assembly comprising of 299 members. The Constitution Day of India is observed on 26 November. The Constituent Assembly adopted the Constitution of India on 26 November 1949. The number of members represented the Indian princely states in the Constituent Assembly of 1946 was 93. The Secretary of the Constituent Assembly was H.B.R. Iyengar. The Constituent Assembly elected for the framing of the Constitution held its first meeting on 9 December 1946. The Constituent Assembly of India was formed in 1946. Jawaharlal Nehru moved the objective resolution in the Constituent Assembly on 13 December 1946. The word in preamble describes India has complete political freedom and supreme authority is called sovereign. The time taken to frame the Constitution of India was 2 years, 11 months and 18 days. Province having highest representation in the Constitution Assembly of India on 31 December 1947 was United Provinces. Chairman of the Finance and Staff Committee of the Constituent Assembly was Rajendra Prasad. President of the Order of Business Committee of the Constituent Assembly was K. M. Munshi, Kanailal Maniklal Munshi. Single citizenship, strong center, all India service, emergency provisions, appointment of governor are called unitary features of Constitution. Written Constitution, dual government, independent judiciary are feature of federal government. According to the Constitution of India, the number of tiers in the government is 3. Indian Constitution is a unique blend of rigidity and flexibility. Meaning of the word republic in the Indian constitution is elected head. The kind of justice mentioned in the preamble of the Constitution of India, social, economic and political. Drafting committee chaired by Dr. B. R. Ambedkar constituted on 29 August 1947. The Union Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment declared November 26 as Constitution Day in 2015. First, first Vice President of the Constituent Assembly was Harendra Kumar Mukherjee, H.C. Mukherjee. First President of the Constituent Assembly of Independent India was Dr. Rajendra Prasad. The proposal for the formation of a Constituent Assembly for India was first proposed by M.N. Roy in 1934. 10th session of the Constituent Assembly was held from 6 to 17 October 1949. Liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship are mentioned in preamble. Ammu Swaminathan became a part of the Constituent Assembly in 1946 from Madras constituency. Kanailal Maniklal Munshi described the preamble of Indian Constitution as political horoscope. The term secular added to the preamble of the Indian Constitution in 1976. The Constituent Assembly adopted the national song Vande Mataram on 24th January 1950. Indian Constitution is a sovereign socialist secular democratic republic with a parliamentary system. Set of written rules accepted by all the people living within the country is called Constitution. The Constituent Assembly ratified India's membership of the Commonwealth in May 1949. Chairman of the Credential Committee of the Constituent Assembly of India was Alladi Krishnaswamy Iyer. The national flag was adopted by the Constituent Assembly of India on 22 July 1947. Bicameral legislature is a federal feature of the Constitution. The Constituent Assembly adopted the national anthem Jana Gana Mana on 24 January 1950. Constituent Assembly was formed on the recommendation of the Cabinet Mission which visited India in 1946. According to preamble of Indian Constitution, India is a republic country. Example of written constitution USA, Canada and India. The act regarded as the precursor of the Indian Constitution is Government of India Act 1935. The Hindi version of the original Indian Constitution was calligraphed by Basant Kishan Boitto. The preamble of the Constitution of India provides for the liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. Example of unitary constitution is UK, United Kingdom. Example of federal constitution is United States of America. Example of unwritten constitution is UK, United Kingdom. The handwritten constitution was signed on 24th January 1950 by 284 members of the Constituent Assembly, which included 15 women. The plan through which Constituent Assembly was created is called Cabinet Mission Plan. The system of government where the distribution of powers between the center and the state are not equal is called quasi-federal government. A process where citizens can propose a new law or amendment by gathering enough signatures on a petition is called initiative. An indirect democracy, also known as representative republic or citizens elected representatives. Who, who has been described the Indian constitution as bargaining federalism? Morris Jones. Example of quasi-federal government, India. Who has been described the Indian constitution as federation with a centralizing tendency? Ivor Jennings. The chief guest of India's first Republic Day parade on 26 January 1950, Indonesian President Sukarno. The first Republic Day parade was conducted at Irene Stadium, now called Major Dhyanchand National Stadium in New Delhi. The system in which the head of the state is also the head of the government and the executive branch is independent of the legislative branch is called presidential system. The system of governance that combines element of presidential democracy with parliamentary democracy is called semi-presidential system. The president has more power than the prime minister in semi-presidential system. The form of government in which a person, the monarch, is head of state for lifetime or until abdication is called monarchy. A sudden, violent, and unlawful seizure of power from a government is called coup. The head of government has more powers than the head of the state is called semi-parliamentary system. The form of government where executives hold the power with the majority support of the legislature is called parliamentary system. The type of government in which power is controlled by the few people like nobility, fame, wealth, education, or corporate, religious, political, or military control is called oligarchy. The form of government characterized by a leader or group of leaders that hold government power with few to no limitation is called dictatorship. The system of government by one person with absolute power is called autocracy. The drafting committee was set up on 29 August 1947. The committee of the Constituent Assembly were divided into 8 major and 14 minor committees. The Constituent Assembly was partly nominated and partly elected. The government has absolute power with no opposition is called totalitarian. Only Muslim woman in the Constituent Assembly was Begum Aijaz Rasul from United Provinces. Only female chairperson in the Constituent Assembly was Durgabai Deshmukh. She is from Madras constituency. Who said that the preamble is the keynote of the Constitution? Ernest Barker. All the religions in India get equal respect, protection, and support from the state is called secular. India has its own independent authority and it is not a dominion or dependent state of any other external power is called sovereign. Who called that the preamble as identity card of the constitution? N.A. Palkiwala. Socialist, secular, and integrity were added in the preamble in 1976. A government that is meant to last only a limited period before a permanent government is elected is called interim government. Who called that the preamble as the keynote of the constitution? Now Thakurdas Bhargav. Seven members of drafting committee are Alladi Krishnasamy Iyer, N. Gopalasamy, B. R. Ambedkar, K. M. Munshi, Muhammad Sadullah, B. L. Mittar, and D. P. Khaitan. The absence of restraint or domination on the activities of an individual, such as freedom from slavery, imprisonment, despotism, is called liberty. The third and final reading of the draft of the Constitution was completed on 26 November 1949. After in which case the Supreme Court declared that preamble was part of the Constitution. Now Kesavananda Bharati case. In which case the Supreme Court held that preamble was not part of the Constitution. Now Berubari case. Father of communism, the Karl Marx. National emblem was adopted on 26 January 1950. The spirit of brotherhood among the people of the land is called fraternity. A direct vote by eligible citizens to express their opinion on a significant public question, often related to territorial changes, is called plebiscite. Presently, the Indian Constitution is made up of 440 articles in 25 parts and 12 schedules. Example of rigid constitution: Australia. The original version of the constitution was beautified and decorated by Nandalal Bose and Behar Ram Manohar Sinha. People hold sovereign power and make decisions is called direct democracy. A procedure allowing citizens to remove an elected official from the office through a public vote is called recall. Example of direct democracy is Switzerland. Name of the two types of democracy: direct and indirect. Four devices of direct democracy: and referendum, initiative, recall, and plebiscite. National Law Day observed on 26 November. Example of flexible constitution: New Zealand. The original text of the constitution contained 395 articles in 22 parts and 8 schedules.